was interesting. It took us 4 blocks to stop, but we stopped. And a lot of people driving up and down 95 got some autographs. But we made it. And I was telling Rick that this thing is now 6 months into the planning, and never fails the last hour, something always got to go wrong. But we do have a surprise guest with us before I introduce Rick. Many of you know that I'm very partial to the NWA. In fact, many of you are partial to the NWA. And one of the reasons the NWA is going to be #1 in the very near future, if it isn't already #1, is one of their commentators. And I'd like to introduce at this time, and I think he deserves a very large round of applause from TBS, Jim Ross. Just keep the applause going, because he likes to hear a round of applause before he comes in. But if you don't think that this party is big time, we've got the #1 TV commentator in the world with us here tonight. You've all waited a long time for this dinner, almost as long as I have. And I got to tell you something, when I introduced this fella, keeping it nice and simple, short and sweet, I sat down many nights trying to write a whole lot of stuff. And I kept coming up with all the accolades, 5-time world champion, but soon to be 6-time world champion. I will just simply introduce him as Mr. Professional Wrestling, a class act, a gentleman, and a professional. Ladies and gentlemen, Ric Flair. Plenty of time. Rick will be around to see everybody, pictures and the like. I know Rick does want to say a few words, so if everybody can just kind of get seated, we've got some time. I'm going to introduce him as the only world champion to wrestle in Philadelphia. And I sat down the last couple of nights trying to come up with all these fancy speeches and what have you, and I hope I remember this. I had no notes. I came up with the letters R-I-C-F-L-A-I-R. And the R in Rick stands for ring, because in the wrestling ring, there is no question, he is #1. And I think you would agree. The letters I-C simply mean that I see the greatest fans in the world in this room tonight. Now, when it came to Ric Flair, there were a lot of words that came up for the letter F. And I wrote them all down, and I had to pick the right one. And we'll save that one for last. Came up with L. And the letter L, again, I came up with a whole lot of them. And that's what L stands for, a whole lot of reasons why Ric Flair is the World Champion with or without a belt. The letter A took me back to my school days, where A is the grade that I give Ric Flair as if he needed one for what he does for the sport of pro wrestling. I give him an A+. The I stands for I cannot believe that this thing actually got pulled off. And when we got that flat tire coming up 95, I said, oh my God, there's people going to be eating dinner and they're not going to see us. And then the R, little play on words here, stands for aren't you glad that you're here today at the Civic Center. The F is going to be changed soon because the F stands for 5-time world champion, soon to be 6-time world champion, Ric Flair.
Thank you very, very much. A lot of you will find it probably hard to believe, but I really haven't had a lot of practice at public speaking. I really haven't had an opportunity to be up in front of people that were gathered to honor me, and it's a great honor, and I want to thank each and every one of you, and I hope I have an opportunity in the next couple hours to shake all of your hands and to say hello personally, because it's a tremendous honor. We're all here because we believe in the sport of professional wrestling. We believe in the National Wrestling Alliance. We believe in the cause that hard work in this sport makes you number one. And I feel that on this particular day, being honored by all of you is a day that will be very special to me the rest of my life. Thank you very, very much.
Everybody just enjoy your dinner, and we will be around, and you'll certainly get your opportunity to meet Ric Flair.
Howard Eskin was invited. He could not attend. The problem is it's spring and Mike Schmidt's lawn needed mowing, so. Former Mayor Frank Rizzo was invited to attend. He could not be here. I don't know if you heard yesterday. There was a tragedy. The Frank Rizzo Memorial Library burned down, causing the loss of both books. It was tragic. Frank wasn't through coloring one of them yet. So he kind of got stuck with me. You know it's a big event. I put a sport jacket on. I remember when I bought this sport jacket, the salesman told me it would stretch. I said, that's fine, the check will bounce. 2 out of 3. Schmitty like that. I want to introduce the head table to you, and each of them will be up here to say a few words. And some other folks not at the head table. Where did Frank go? Oh, yes. Our representative from the State Athletic Commission, deputy, assistant, deputy, I don't know what the hell he does. Frank's okay. Frank comes from a very musical family. Everybody in Frank's family has a record. No, but Frank's a great man. Frank came to Philadelphia with nothing and promptly lost it all. Kind of a crazy guy. Frank stayed in his hometown until he was 24. He wanted to finish high school. But Frank's a little strange. He likes to do strange things. You can usually catch him if he's the guy at porno movies that sits in the back with a squirt gun filled with Jergens lotion. Ladies and gentlemen, Frank Talent.
Thank you for this quick opportunity to rebut what you just heard. All I will say as far as Mr. Newman goes, ladies and gentlemen, take a good look at him. No, don't laugh, please. This man, I swear to God, now Ric Flair and others will agree, this man is a man of goodwill. In fact, every goddamn thing he's got on is from goodwill. But seriously, I just want to say thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just as much a treat and an honor for me as for each and every one of you. And with your kind permission, what I'm about to say, I would say on behalf of all of you, to Ric Flair, one of the greatest human beings, I want to emphasize, greatest human beings that I've ever met. Besides being a class gentleman, ladies and gentlemen, he is without a doubt, pro wrestling. Again, on behalf of the State Athletic Commission and all you wonderful people, Ric Flair, today is my day. You have made my day. One of the classiest gentlemen in the business. God bless you and continued success. Thank you.
Next gentleman is at the head table. He is the editor-in-chief of a number of major wrestling publications. George Napolitano is a very generous guy. He heard you could feed a family of 4 in India for under $10, so he sent his family there. But George is a very successful businessman. They say he has the Midas touch. Everything he touches turns into a muffler. He said take it easy on you, I guess he should. Okay, a man who needs no introduction because nobody wants to meet him, George Napolitano.
Thank you very much. It really is my pleasure to come up here to see Ric Flair and to be part of this great celebration today. I've known Ric since 1971 when I started doing wrestling magazines, and I had to come here today to be part of this. Thank you.
I like that jacket, by the way.
You couldn't afford it.
Don't let anybody tell you that burlap does not hold a crease. Okay. The other gentleman to our right is the guy that promotes wrestling here in Philadelphia, and the man responsible actually for bringing the NWA to Philadelphia. When they created Elliot Murnick, they threw away the mold. But the mold keeps growing back. Elliot has had a very tough life, full of trials. I'm very happy to say no convictions as of this point. Elliot actually has only been in trouble once in his life. He and his brother Carl, when they were young, tried to rob a liquor store. They didn't want to be recognized, so they put nylon stockings over their heads. Actually, it was a pair of pantyhose. They had to walk very close together. Ladies and gentlemen, Elliot Murnick.
Well, I really hate to make a liar out of Mr. Newman, but I have been convicted. And Carl and I did try to rob the liquor store, but we got the pantyhose fulfilled. I would just like to take one short moment to thank all of y'all. We came to Philadelphia a number of years ago. In February, we thought we were coming up here to set the world on fire. We didn't know that fire won't burn in snow. Our first show here in February was about knee deep, but you are the people who have supported us, and I know this is a testimonial to Rick, and I'll get to him in just a second, but I think it's a testimonial to you people also who have supported the NWA. We've had our ups and downs, and I can only promise you that we're going to start going up, up, and up. In fact, there may not be a building in Philadelphia big enough to hold what's coming to this town. Now let me get to Mr. Flair. I know Rick has been in some tough situations in and out of the ring, and I don't think he's been in a tougher situation than he is right now because he doesn't know what I want to say. But since this is a good day, we're going to talk about some good things about Ric Flair. Some of the good things were when the elevator door wouldn't open at Hilton Hotel, sometimes on airplanes, but I can only go back to one brief moment in Rick's career, and I've known Rick for a long time. I went to his home in Charlotte, North Carolina, and this gentleman couldn't stand up or sit down without help. And to see him today and to see his ability and how it has grown is a testimony to Rick as a person. I know that a month ago in New Orleans, I wasn't there, but I was fortunate enough to watch probably the finest wrestling match that I've ever seen in 25 years of watching wrestling. You may or may not have liked the outcome of the match, but if you're a wrestling fan, you probably saw one of the greatest wrestling matches ever. And knowing Rick, I've been with Rick on and off for the last couple of weeks, and I know he has intensified his training, his devotion to getting back what I personally believe is rightfully his. And I think if you have the opportunity to go to Nashville next Sunday or to watch it on television, you'll probably see the second greatest wrestling match that you'll ever see. And all I can do is wish Rick the best. He is 100% wrestling and 100% the National Wrestling Alliance, and I thank you.
There are other dignitaries we will introduce to you a little bit later. Your dinner is here. Enjoy. Kitchen, who have done a great job. They've been great. I didn't know Black & Decker made roast beef. Got a couple more people we would like to introduce. Over on this side of the room, there are closet wrestling fans of every ilk, from everywhere. The program director of WYSP, John Roberts. And from the Daily News, columnist Rick Selvin is here. And we have one more gentleman that we are going to hear from, who was at the head table. He was introduced before and was given credit for his wrestling announcing and all of that ability. Not many people know that Jim Ross is also a great scholar. He was a great student. In 10th grade, he made straight A's. His B's were a little crooked, but ladies and gentlemen, Jim Ross.
Certainly is an honor and a privilege for me to be here today. I had heard about this function a few days ago, and I was not real sure that I could attend. I changed a few things and made every attempt to be here, so I do appreciate this opportunity to really honor a guy that I respect as much for our friendship as I do for his efforts in the wrestling ring. I think that you all here too have a lot to be proud of. I used to be criticized when I was in elementary school for wanting to stay up and watch wrestling instead of watching Gunsmoke with my father. So we alternated every other week. We would watch wrestling one week and Gunsmoke the next, and until I won him over as a fan. I know that wrestling fans, closet fans, or fans that are proud to say, "Hey, what are you going to do this weekend? I'm going to watch wrestling. I'm going to go to the Civic Center. I'm going to go to the Spectrum. I'm going to go to Nashville, wherever." I know that you oftentimes have people look at you a little strange, like, you just don't have enough to do. Why are you a wrestling fan? I ride an airplane with a lot of people, and I've had the privilege of sitting next to a lot of celebrities, if you will, and they say, "What do you do?" And I usually say, I was going to say years ago, "Well, I'm a sports announcer." And I said, "What the hell? I'm a wrestling announcer, and I'm proud to be a wrestling announcer." The NWA, as you all know, is enduring a lot of changes. Our company was purchased in November by Ted Turner in Atlanta. We feel like that our best days are yet to come. We have endured a lot of problems. We have endured the attack of the great whale, and we will endure other attacks. However, some of you understand, some of you don't. But I think that one thing that we can promise you, I think you can see from our television programs in recent weeks, is that the entire staff, from wrestlers to cameramen to technicians, are working extremely hard to bring you an exciting and an entertaining and a fun product to watch. And I think that if you have the opportunity Sunday to see what we have planned as far as effort is concerned, I think you're going to be very pleased and proud to say that you're a fan of the National Wrestling Alliance. One of the great privileges and pleasures when I was hired by Jim Crockett Promotions in May of 1987 was to be able to continue my friendship on a more regular basis with Ric Flair. We had the privilege of using his talents in the Mid-South wrestling area where I first started, and he always was a tremendous asset to our cars, quite obviously. But the thing that made Ric Flair special, we always talk about his great work in the ring. And unfortunately, many of you have never had the opportunity to see his efforts in the locker room. When he walks into an arena, he is the yardstick that it's all measured by, I will assure you. Every young athlete in this sport will copy one or two or more moves from Nature Boy Ric Flair and try to perfect them. So I guess you could say his charisma, perhaps his attitude, no one in wrestling, no one, and I'm talking about announcers, front office people, anybody else works harder than Ric Flair. We were out till 4:30 this morning, and I rolled out of bed at the crack of noon, and he had already had an hour and a half workout. And that's the kind of man he is. There were a lot of other wrestlers out late last night, best I remember. And I think that Ric Flair was the first one out of bed this morning, had the longest workout, and will be ready, and he's not even wrestling tonight, unfortunately. But I don't want to keep you from your dinner. It is really a pleasure for me to be here. Like I said, the NWA is a fans organization. That's why we're here. And we certainly and sincerely appreciate each and every one of you taking time out of your day to be with us and for letting us be with you. We hope that you'll enjoy the event tonight and many more events from the NWA in the coming weeks. Thank you very much.
I can relate a little bit to what Jim was talking about as far as introducing himself as a wrestling announcer. I work for a rather straight radio station in KYW, and one of the things I miss about not doing a talk show is not having the opportunity anymore to sit down and talk for an hour with a Ric Flair or Tully Blanchard or whoever. There's always been a great debate among media folks is wrestling sports, is wrestling entertainment. The way the WWF does things now, it's like it's wrestling cartoons. But it's gotten a little more into, like cartoons. I have made a lot of comments and cracks about folks up here and folks out there. There's one person I have not cracked on sitting at the head table because I'm pretty sure that the rest of the guys couldn't kick my ass, except for him. I have had the sincere opportunity and the pleasure to meet, interview, occasionally hang out with some of the big people in sports. Julius Erving, Charles Barkley, a lot of folks. I can tell you that there is no one that works harder at his craft or has more class or cares more than Ric Flair. And that's kind of why I wanted to be here and be involved. But now is the time that you folks are going to get to enjoy. Dessert will be being served, and Ric Flair, go out and meet your public. Dessert is coming. We're going to take it one table at a time. So be patient. To make the first of the presentations, let me call back up George Napolitano.
Superstar Wrestler magazine decided to give an award to Ric Flair, considering that he was and is the greatest wrestler there is today. Decided to make up a plaque. It says, presented to Ric Flair in recognition of your outstanding achievements in professional wrestling in the 80s. Due to your numerous accomplishments, there is no doubt that you are indeed the wrestler of the decade. I've known Ric Flair since 1974, and as I said, I had to come here for this. I remember meeting Rick in Charlotte, North Carolina. At first, Nature Boy was just starting out in the sport. Right then, I knew that he had the charisma and whatever it takes to be a champion, to succeed. And I've seen it all the way, and I will continue to see it well into the 90s. As I said, I'm glad to be here, Rick. It's my pleasure.
Pictures. You think this was? You thought this was Mike Tyson and Robin Gibbons sitting here? Snapping pictures. Wait. You guys all gonna hang out here? Or? Yeah. Woo! Okay. We have one added presentation that nobody else knows about, and to make that, let me call up from the Squared Circle Fan Club, Randy Salomon and Ron Dagnall.
I asked a lot of people what they thought of Joe Goodhart, and I got a lot of different answers, but everybody said one thing: Joel Goodhart deserves something for what he's done for the wrestling fans of Philadelphia and now Baltimore. So we got together and we decided that Joe Goodhart is the man of the year. And we've got a little something for him.
All right. That's my first. How many
presented to Joel Goodhart for his dedication and devotion to the Squared Circle Fan Club and Wrestling Radio. You guys all own this. Thank you.
That's great. Start your own club, get the Man of the Year award. I mean, it's a lot, you know? Yeah. Okay. We have the main presentation yet to come, and Joel is going to make that. Every time I see Joel, he is dressed in a tux, so I cannot make fun of his clothes. Although I must tell you, I did go shopping with Joel once. We walked into a clothing store, a girl behind the counter said to Joel, "Can I help you?" And Joel said, "Yes, what do you have for a man in my size?" The sales girl said, "Pity." It has been a tough day for Joel. He told you about the flat tire. It has been a tougher day for him. He got up this morning, opened his refrigerator door, and the handle fell off. He walked out to his front door, opened that, the handle fell off. Walked out to his car, opened that, the handle fell off. Joel's been afraid to go to the bathroom all day. But to make the main presentation and the reason we are here, I give you Joel Goodhart.
Thank you. Now, let me just tell you a little story before I make this presentation. Now, this is a true story. When we conceived this thing back in the early part of this year, we held a Wrestler of the Decade contest on Wrestling Radio, and most of you, if not all of you, responded in kind. And if I can call Rick up here for a second, Ric Flair won that contest in excess of 15-1. And that's why we are here. He is our Wrestler of the Decade. Now, when we put this dinner together, I wanted to go out and get something special, something a little different. And I called a friend of mine up who owns a trophy shop, and I said, and he happens to be a wrestling fan, and I said to him, "I want to get a trophy for Ric Flair." He says, "I've got the great idea," and he brings out a picture of a trophy, 8 foot tall, 126 pounds. I said it was too small. But at the same time, I said two things. One, why would anyone want to receive that trophy? And secondly, where the hell would he put it in Charlotte, North Carolina? It just wouldn't fit. So we discounted the trophy. We then looked at a plaque, and the plaque was 6 foot high, 6 foot wide. The plaque would read Ric Flair of the 80s, Ric Flair Wrestler of the Decade on the top, Squared Circle Fan Club on the bottom, and then each of you could sign a blank piece of metal that would be unerasable that he could take home. Problem is, why would anybody want to put that in their home? So I had to come up with something different. And I checked out through certain sources, and he's never received one of these. Now, let me tell you why we're presenting this to you. Right now, and it's only going to be a week, but right now, you don't have a belt. And I suspect that next Sunday, give or take an hour or so at this time, most of us will either be in Nashville or in front of our pay-per-view watching you demolish Ricky Steamboat. But for the time being, Rick, since there's only 7 days to go, I want to present to you a very special gift. I want you to know that this is from all the fans of Philadelphia and Baltimore, the Squared Circle Fan Club. This is your Wrestler of the Decade World Championship belt.
Hold it up! Hold it up!
I want you to know that inscribed in the belt is Wrestling Radio's Wrestler of the 80s, the Squared Circle Fan Club. Ladies and gentlemen, Nature Boy, Ric Flair.
to me, there have been times in the past couple of years when I have questioned, or I've had to make decisions about my future, and have second-guessed myself and questioned what the future held for me. And let me just say that during those times, I wondered if I was in the right place to deserve the recognition that I felt that sometimes I didn't get, not from the fans, but because of the media and the two different factions that exist in this sport. However, I never lost sight of the fact that professional wrestling is a sport. You receive it as a sport. I think that I try each and every time in that ring to present myself as an athlete, and that's the difference. Need I say any more? In moments like this, and I said it earlier, makes me feel very, very good about the decisions that I made in my life. And I'm glad that I'm where I'm at, and it's a tremendous, tremendous honor. I'm saying this from the bottom of my heart to know that you all think so highly of me. Thank you.
If everybody could just have a seat for a moment, please, so we can get this organized.
There you go, Chad.
As you know, many of you attend a lot of our Squared Circle fan club functions. And at each of our wrestling functions, at our lunch buffets, we have a presentation of a poem. And we have someone in our group who's very good at writing a poem. And I'm going to call Randy up right now. Randy will present this poem to Ric. Then Ric will come out and finish up with each and every one of you. And then I'll just have a few last words to say. So Randy, go for it. We've got to make it fast.
Thank you very much. Real honor for me. The title of this poem is obviously The Nature Boy Ric Flair. Okay. He's a 5-time heavyweight champion, the Nature Boy Ric Flair. Your wrestling talent is second to none. No champion could ever compare. Once there was the 4 horsemen. Now there is only 2. Now that Telly and Arn are gone, there's only Barry and you. But you don't need the horsemen. A true champion stands on his own. And soon to be a 6-time champion. So fans, don't moan and groan. Because after the May the 7th, at the Wrestle War 89, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat will lose, and that prediction is mine. Wrestler of the 80s is the honor tonight, and it goes to the man right there. Ladies and gentlemen, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair.
Thank you, Randy. All right, now again, I promised everybody here was going to meet him and greet him, so we're going to have to get Ric through the rest of the crowd. Ric does have a plane to catch. If anybody leaves their seats, it's going to kind of mess things up. Let me just kind of explain one thing. As you know, Ric is not wrestling tonight here in Philadelphia. Match does start at 8 o'clock, by the way. And when I got a call from Elliot that the plans had been changed and Ric was not going to be in Philly, I suddenly saw this entire dinner crumble. And I called Ric, and Ric said, hey, there's no chance in the world that I would not be here. And for that, I think he deserves another standing ovation. Now, those of you who do not have tickets and who are not going to the show this evening, you must leave the premises. The reason for that is the doors have not been opened up upstairs yet for the general public. We are the only ones in the building. So anyone who does not have a ticket, you're going to miss something tonight, by the way, but if you don't have a ticket, you're going to have to leave. All right, Ric, just some final comments before we kind of send you to the throngs here. I know we have the limo waiting outside. Please cooperate, greeting him, taking the pictures, and letting him go. Rick, I don't care how you do it. I don't care with what means you do it. On Sunday, when he wins that World Championship, let everyone in this room know that he won it for us. Ric Flair!